What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video here at J-Bay's Corner. It is so nice to be talking to everyone. I am doing one of my favorite videos of all time that I do every month, which is a reading wrap-up. Today, we are going to be talking about all the books that I have gotten through in September. Hopefully some of these are inspirational for you as well. And if you guys have read any of these books before, then please leave comments below on your thoughts on these novels. I had a very wide range of genres this month. I had books that were hardcore 5-star reads. I also had books that were meh on the scale, like probably closer to a 2-star even. But that being said, overall, it was a great reading month. Definitely felt very transitional from summertime into the fall, with it being September, overall transitionary seasons as well. And in terms of the weather here, it was very, very warm at the beginning of this month, like still around 90s to 100s where I am. And so it was really hard to accept that it was fall. Now the weather is finally cooling down as we enter into October. But I finished a book today, so I felt like it was only appropriate to do the recording for the September reading wrap up today on the last day of September in the year 2024. And it's crazy to think that it's already end of September, beginning of October in 2024, but here we are. So hopefully you guys enjoy. For those of you that are new to the channel, welcome to this little corner of the internet with me. My name is Jaya, and I talk about all things books here on this channel every once in a while with a sprinkling of travel vlogs and fashion and other random things. But for the most part, we stick with the bookish talks, as I'm sure you can probably tell from the shelves as well. I'm also seriously running out of bookshelf space, so I need to figure out how to reorganize everything. So things might look a little different when you guys log back on in the future to see what has changed over here in this bookish world of mine. For those of you who are returning, thank you so much for coming back and joining me today as we talk even more books. It's always so nice to have you guys return and leave your comments below. It makes me definitely feel like we're creating a bookish community here and sharing our passion for books. And that is what this is all about. So thank you so much for being here and supporting me. That being said, if this is up your alley and it's something that you're interested in, then definitely consider hitting that subscribe button and that notification bell in order to stay caught up with all the new bookish content that is being released. With it also being the entry into fall, I have a lot of things on my mind in terms of what I want to share: fall deco, fall vibes, candles, all the reading things that you need for the fall. I should rephrase that. I don't think anybody else needs as much as I do, but I love my fall deco and my fall vibes. I also have a ton of books that I've read in the past that I think would be appropriate for fall reads, as well as a extensive TBR that there's no way I'm going to get through, but a girl can dream. And I am so bubbly and overly excited for my October TBR that I've already written them all down as if I've read them. So it's going to be an insane reading month this upcoming month. So all those videos will be coming up soon as well. But all that to say that I'm excited to share even more bookish content as we go into this fall holiday season. But until then, let's go ahead and talk about the September reads. So the first book I have here is The Inn at Tansy Falls by Kate Woods. This is a very sweet book. It's very homely. It's very small town vibes. It's very, I'm sorry guys. That's literally actually kind of the mood that this book created for me. I'm not going to lie, but it's a cozy read. It's about a woman who's kind of rediscovering herself after the loss of her best friend. She's been sent to a small town to basically go upon a journey that her friend has created for her, going through a checklist of items that she needs to complete in order to rediscover herself and her passion. She's coming out of a terrible breakup and the loss of her best friend. And it's just like overall in mourning, and it's about her kind of exploring those feelings and trying to figure out where she belongs and how she wants to approach her life moving forward as she's hitting this transitory place in her life. I would say overall it's very sweet, it's very cute. It's just that all the characters are very one-dimensional. The book itself, I felt like the town was very one-dimensional. It was really hard for me to fall in love with this book. It was an enjoyable read, an enjoyable audible, but I don't think it's anything to write home about, unfortunately. So this book was probably a solid 2.5 stars for me. It wasn't terrible, it wasn't excellent. It's not a book that I will ever really think about again, and probably not one that I would see myself recommending in the future, but I do love the cover. I love the fall vibes. I do think it was very cute. And maybe that mindset would be changed if I were to have picked this up at a different time or a different season, but just wasn't anything too exciting for me today. This book was actually the book that we read for my Paper and Glam book club, which is a book club run by Lisa Marie Landreth and her wonderful team of women. The Paper and Glam book club is a Patreon. It is also on Clubhouse. So if you were interested in joining us, we do monthly reads together and then discuss them on the last Thursday of the month, except in the months of November and December, because those are holiday months. And we vote on all the books together as a community and thereby select the books for the upcoming year. And then we end up reading and discussing once a month. There's also fun little things that we do, like book exchanges for Christmas, as well as reading parties online, which are always great. So if you want to get with a bunch of wonderful women to talk all things books, then definitely consider joining the Paper and Glam community. But that is what we read this time. Next up, I have a thriller. So this book, How I'll Kill You, is the story about three triplets. They were abandoned at birth. So they've been in the foster care system in and out. They've been together. They have also been separated, but they've never been too far apart from each other. The three sisters are very, very attached to each other, and they spend their entire life basically making sure that the three of them's primary love, primary people in the world will be each other. They also create a pact when one of the sisters ends up in a relationship that ends up going south and her boyfriend at the time ends up murdered. All three of the sisters decide that they will date men. They will absolutely enjoy those relationships. They will put their heart and souls into it. But when things are going too deep or when things are getting too serious, they murder the man and they move on. They never stay in the same town twice. They are identical triplets that seamlessly can slip into each other's roles. And so this story is basically following the third sister in the triplets, who is the one who's always cleaned up after her other sister. She's kind of the silent shadow in the background, but she's never really done anything wrong herself. And now it's her turn to find her perfect mark, create that relationship, and then murder him. So as the book progresses, naturally she starts to fall in love with this man. And now the question becomes, will she betray the man or will she betray her sisters? I think the book was cute. I think it was enjoyable. I think it was a fast read. I don't think it was anything to write home about, though. I do love this cover. I think this is one of the most brilliantly crafted, beautiful covers I have ever seen. So forever it shall live on my bookshelf. And I'm very proud of myself for actually picking up this book and reading it. But I will say it was a little bit on the predictable side. Overall, the storyline was cute. It was fun. It was fast paced. It doesn't really give you that supremely thrilling, creepy vibe or anything like that. But I think the main character, Sissy, the psychological profile of her character, as well as her main mark and everything else, is interesting to read. So overall, this was a solid 3-star read for me. Would I recommend it to other people? Maybe, like if you're looking for something light, palate cleansery, that still has an edge to it, but is like a nice, fast-paced book. This is a great read. I wouldn't say it's anything to necessarily write home about, but I do think it's worth potentially reading. Definitely liked it better than The Inn at Tansy Falls, and so I would give this one a solid 3 stars. Also, there's going to be a lot of yawns in this video, guys. I sincerely apologize. I really thought I could get through it. I've been through a couple of cups of coffee at this point. We've also had, some snacks. Dinner has been consumed, and it is literally 8:30, and I don't know why I'm this tired, but I am exhausted today, so already apologizing for the yawns that may pop up here and there throughout the course of this video. The next two books are actually part of a series from the Riley Thorne collection, which was The Body in the Backyard and The Blast from the Past. I'm not going to go into too much detail about these books because I did actually film a Riley Thorne series wrap-up review, and I can only say that I definitely think if these sound interesting to you, you should definitely check out that video. These books are absolutely so much fun. They are hilarious. They're cozy mystery vibes, small town vibes. You have a psychic who's a hot mess trying to get her life together, and a very good-looking detective or PI, I should say, who kind of likes to bend the rules to his benefit when needed in order to successfully bring a suspect down, who also happens to be best friends with the most straight-laced cop in the entire precinct, who is notoriously good-looking and single, but doesn't know how to keep a girl because he's so straight-laced, who then meets the psychic's best friend, who happens to be the sexiest lawyer you will ever see, but also has a little bit of an anger management issue, who also happens to be friends with Nick's sister-in-law, cousin's wife, who is a little firecracker fireball and actually happens to be the muscle in his entire operation, even though she's only like 5'2", who's married to a wheelchair-bound cousin of Nick's, who is an absolute genius with a slight tint of crazy, and who gets along really well with Riley's dad, who happens to have a pet cow, who's married to Riley's mom, who is a psychic, who is the daughter of Riley's grandmother, who is a very, very respected, very serious medium, who sends a spiritual guide to Riley, who essentially ends up being a puppy dog, who then falls in love with Riley's younger sister, who happens to be a yoga master and a psychic smeller. Like, I can't even continue to go on. And of course, this is all to conclude that Riley's also living with her roommate of octogenarians who are all in their 80s and are the most ridiculous characters you will ever read. This is just a blast of fun. I think it's definitely worth reading these books. If you don't want to read the whole series, at least read the first one. It's just so funny and it's so good. And all I can say is I loved this series. The series as a whole is 4 books and it's a solid 4 stars for me. The Body in the Backyard was a 4-star read, and then The Blast from the Past was a 3-star read. But both of these books were absolutely phenomenal and did not fail me in any way, shape, or form. They did not disappoint. I was very, very happy. The Blast from the Past, the main storyline, was just a little for me. I didn't really care for the main character or the mystery they were trying to solve, which is why I was frustrated with the book. But I will say that the overall banter and relationship between Riley and Nick is absolutely great. And it's a lot of fun to see Weber and Jasmine's relationship as well. Like, overall, great series. Absolutely love these. Would recommend to everyone. They are absolutely hilarious. Perfect for early fall transitionary season and just overall cozy mystery. That's all I have to say. Then I decided to read Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey. This is the follow-up to It Happened One Summer, which I had read last year and absolutely loved. This is following Hannah, the younger sister of Piper, who is the main character in It Happened One Summer, and Fox, who also happens to be Braden, the main character from the first book's best friend. He is working on a ship. He basically captains the ship, and they are out all the time, basically catching crabs and keeping the economy in their small little town alive. Hannah loves music, and she wants to get into production in film as well as the music component of films and directing all of that, and she has the opportunity to do so as a intern on an amazing movie working under a dreamy director named Sergey. No one knows who she is, which is basically the stepdaughter of a billionaire, and she wants to make it herself. In the process of all this, like in the first book, Fox and Hannah meet and they become friends, if you will. She has an instant attraction to him. He has an instant attraction to her, but he respects her out of respect for the fact that Piper, her older sister, is the love interest of his best friend, and so he's very respectful. They end up forming a friendship, and now Hannah has shown up into town and will be rooming with him for at least 4 weeks as the movie that she's working on is filming in their small town. It's a very cute story. I would say it's very predictable. It is fun. It definitely has some spice, so if you're not into the spice vibe, then maybe skip this one. I would say most of Tessa Bailey's books have a little bit of spice. Probably a 2.5 star spice level is what I would say for this book. But it was cute. It was fun. It was an easy read. It was a solid 3-star read for me. I definitely think it's a great summer book. I'm not really sure why I read it in September. I definitely think I would have enjoyed it more had I read it in the summertime, but it was a very cute, fun read, and I do see myself reading more Tessa Bailey in the future. Next up, we have Canadian Boyfriend. Now, this book was a major letdown for me. I'm not even going to lie. I was very disappointed in this book. I felt like the way that the eating disorder was talked about, the anxiety was talked about, the childhood trauma was talked about, the way that his relationship with his dead wife was talked about, the way that, you know, they deal with Olivia's PTSD. It was all very flat for me. It wasn't bad by any say of the imagination. It was just really hard for me to connect with the characters and really feel the emotions that they were feeling. It was a struggle for me. And because of that, it was very hard for me to get into this book. Also, there was a consistent note in the book that she's lying to Mike, who's the main male interest, and Aurora being the main female interest. She's a dancer. He is a hockey player in the NHL, and he is very upset by the idea of people just approaching him for his fame. And she had met him back in the mall when she was still a teenager and basically decided to make him into her fake boyfriend. And throughout the entirety of the book, she's battling whether or not she should tell him about this past. And I just feel like the way that the lead up was done, the way that the romance flourished, like it was a very flat book for me. I don't think it's a bad book by any stretch of the imagination. I just don't think it was the right kind of writing style for me. So I don't know if I'll pick up Jenny Holiday's books in the future, but I will say that if you're looking for something fun, casual, enjoyable, just some lighthearted, happy romance, then it's still going to deliver. It's a great book. But I just don't think it was the right book for me. And for that reason, this was a 2-star for me. The next book from page 1 onwards, I wanted to cry. Page 1, guys. Page 1, sentence 1 had me reeling. Solid 5-star read. We have Beartown by Frederick Bachman. I don't think I've read a single book by this man that has not been a 5-star, and I don't think there's a single book that he has written that has not torn my heart apart. My favorite thus far is Anxious People. This is a close second. Beartown basically follows the story of a sleepy little town that doesn't have much name or fame for itself, but its claim to fame is its hockey team, and particularly its high school hockey teams. And it's following the story of the town as well as these hockey players. It does have some trigger warning content in it. For example, it does talk about sexual assault, sexual abuse. It also talks about mob mentality. It talks about social classism. It talks about a lot of different things, but it's written in such a beautiful, poetic way. I'm just gonna read the first sentence to you guys so you know like how quickly this book just hooks you. This is our first chapter, okay? Late one evening toward the end of March, a teenager picked up a double-barreled shotgun, walked into the forest, put the gun to someone else's forehead, and pulled the trigger. This is the story of how we got there. That's literally, I didn't have a chance. I did not stand a chance with this book. This was an excellent book for me. I loved seeing the character growth. I loved seeing the relationship between the friends. I loved seeing the relationship between the coaches and their pupils. I loved seeing the different type of parenting styles. I loved seeing the relationship between the parents. I loved seeing the friendships in this book, the maturity levels of some of these teenagers and the absolute lack of maturity in the others. The ending boiled my blood, but in a good way. And all I can say is this book is chef's kiss for me. I absolutely adored this book. This is a solid 5-star read for me, and I can't wait to pick up the sequels in December when the weather gets a little bit cooler, because ice hockey, I feel like it has to be that vibe. Probably when I pick up all the other ice hockey books that are on my shelf as well. But definitely would recommend. It's not just a sports-based book. There's a lot of depth to this book, and this sleepy little town, I hope, will steal everyone else's hearts too, in the same way that it has done so mine. But that was the chef's kiss of this reading journey. Then I read After I Do. Now, I feel a little embarrassed about this because I actually read this book last year and completely forgot I had read the book. I started reading this book / listening to this book, and I was just like, I have read this before. But you know, there's a reason why I was gravitating towards it. This is a very, very cute book written by Taylor Jenkins Reid in her most beautiful prose, but it's basically following the story of Lauren and Ryan when their marriage is kind of on the brink. They've been together for over 10 years, and they just hit a point where they've forgotten why they've fallen in love. They bother each other. Every little thing frustrates the other person, but they know that love is buried there somewhere deep. And so they decided to go on a trial separation for a year and see what happens. Now, during this separation, they are allowed to see other people. They are not allowed to communicate with one another at all. And they've set a date at which they will revisit one another to figure out where they want to move forward with their marriage. It is a very, very beautiful book. I think it has a lot to do with self-discovery, self-worth. It has a lot to do with the idea of family, values, what's important to you. And it was just a beautiful journey to see. I do think this book is written beautifully. I would say the main thing I would say about this book is that it gives me the same vibes as One True Loves. Like, it's just such a beautiful concept, and it's such a unique concept. And I applaud Taylor Jenkins Reid for writing this book. This was a solid 4-star read for me. I do love this book. I love everything that it represents. It's not quite a 5-star. I would actually say, if I had to get nitpicky, it was more like a 3.85 star for me. But I will say that this book was definitely wonderful. And should anyone ask me, should I read Taylor Jenkins Reid? It will not be the first Taylor Jenkins Reid book that I recommend, because I would just say, yes, please read her and start with The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo or something in that world, or perhaps even One True Loves. But I will say that this is still one of the top contenders that I have read by her, and I absolutely loved this book. Next, we have Checkmate by Ali Hazelwood. This book made me angry. The female main character is an 18-year-old, and she's constantly talking about sex. I don't care that she likes to have sex. I don't care that she has partners of different genders. I don't care that she's doing what she needs to do in order to keep herself afloat and alive in an adult book. In a young adult book, it was a lot. It was a lot for a young adult book and for a book to be marketed as such. However, I did enjoy the relationship between the main character, Mallory, and her main male lead character, Nolan. I did like the side characters more in this book. It was also very chess heavy, and I'm just not a chess person. I guess I should have realized it was going to be super heavy, considering it's called Checkmate and the entire book revolves around chess. But I just felt like overall it was a little underwhelming as far as Ali Hazelwood's books go, and it was just really hard for me to be able to appreciate this book given the fact that it was written as a young adult book. I don't think certain topics were covered in a way that I would have wanted to see them written in a young adult book. But that being said, I still love Ali Hazelwood. I still plan on reading everything she's written. Now that October is here, Bride is definitely on the table and will probably honestly be the next book that I read. So it's not that I'm going to stop reading Ali Hazelwood in any way. And I do think this storyline is still significantly better than Not in Love, which was her most recent STEM romance that she wrote. But I will say that this was not my absolute favorite, if that makes any sense. The ending was good. I would say it leaves you on a cliffhanger, which made me angry, but at the same time, I can see why it was left as a cliffhanger. I do think that that was a strike of genius on Ali's part in terms of how she wrote the book, but it pissed me off, not gonna lie. So I'm gonna call this book a solid 2.5 stars for me. Nothing amazing, nothing terrible, but because of all of the particular push towards sexual content in this book, it bothered me for a young adult book. Then we have the Atlas 6. I read the entire series. The entire series for me was like a 2.8 to 3-star read. It is very intricate magic systems. It is definitely dark academia vibes. It is very, very well written. Olivia Blake's writing is absolutely beautiful. The problem for me was more the fact that I didn't like a single one of the characters, maybe one at most. And I was also very confused by the fluidity in which they move through the world in terms of their morals, their values, their compass, as well as in terms of their relationships with one another, with their romantic partners, everything. It was just a bit of a struggle for me. I did do a full review on the Atlas 6, and I have posted a video specific to this series. So if you do want to watch that series review for more details, you will definitely get more from me as to which books I liked most in the series, why I liked them, why specific characters spoke more to me than others. So all of that is in that series review, but I will leave us here with just saying it wasn't terrible, it wasn't amazing. I think as far as dark academia goes, it's beautiful. I think Olivia Blake's writing is beautiful. But does it touch We Were Villains for me? No, it does not. Does it touch Secret History for me by Donna Tartt? No, it does not. But nonetheless, beautiful books. And then last but not least, we finally got to the new Riley Sager book. So this was the book that was released back in, when was this released? When was it released? I think it was released last month. Let me check. Okay. So no, it just tells me it was released in 2024. Well, that's helpful, but it's been sitting on my shelf for at least a month. So it was either there from September onwards or it was there from August onwards. More tempted to say it was from August. It has been blinking at me from my bookshelf forever now. I knew I wanted to read it. I knew I wanted it to be a transitionary book between September and October, leading us into spooky season because Riley Sager writes the best thrillers. I think this was a great book. I don't think this was as much of a thriller as much as it was an understanding of what happened. It's a cold case retelling, and it's basically about a man who goes back to his childhood home for the first time after 30 years, after experiencing something in his life and his parents moving to Florida. The only thing is, the home that he's coming back to is the same house that his best friend disappeared from 30 years ago. And at that time, they were 10 or 12. And so he's basically reliving those experiences and trying to figure out what happened the day that his best friend Billy disappeared. Ethan is a great character. He's a very interesting read. I think overall the plot line was seamless. It flew very fast. It's an easy read. Do I think it's the best that Riley Sager has written? No. My favorite Riley Sager book is Lock Every Door. I love that one. I know a lot of people also really enjoyed The House Across the Lake. I think that one was quite phenomenal as well. I also really enjoyed Survive the Night, and I also really enjoyed The Last One Standing, or what? No, what was it called? I'm sorry, let me look this up for you guys. I'm so sorry. Okay, one sec. I tell you shortly. Riley Sager books. This one, the only one left. That one I think was better than this one. That was the one that was released in 2023. At this point, I have read every single Riley Sager book that he has put out, and I will say by far Lock Every Door was probably my favorite, followed by The House Across the Lake, followed by Survive the Night, followed by The Final Girls, then The Last Time I Lied, then The Home Before Dark, and then Middle of the Night. So this was probably my least favorite of his books. But that being said, even with it being the least favorite of his books, I will continue to read every single book he puts out. And as you can see, I have gone through all the other ones that he's written. And this is still, even though it's not my favorite, a solid 3.5-star read. I just think Riley Sager has a way with prose. He has a way of creating atmosphere that is perfect for a thriller chilling season. And I just think overall he does a phenomenal job with all of the novels that he writes. This one just was more about friendship. It was more about the demons from your childhood haunting your present day. It was about closure right? It was about taking responsibility to a certain extent and how an action can impact an entire community. So I think overall it was a very well written book. It was absolutely wonderful. It just wasn't quite the thrilling, chilling that I wanted from Riley Sager with this book. It was still very, very enjoyable. And I would still say, like I said, a solid 3.5 star read, but definitely not my absolute favorite by him. And that brings us to the end of our video. So that is all 13 books that I read this month. So just to recap, we did Middle of the Night by Riley Sager. We had the Atlas Blake series, or Atlas 6 series. Atlas Blake is the main caretaker's name. Sorry, guys. Then we had Checkmate by Ali Hazelwood. After I Do by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Beartown, phenomenal, by Frederick Bachman. We had Canadian Boyfriend. We had Hook, Line, and Sinker. And then 2 Lucy Score books, which was The Body in the Backyard and The Blast from the Past. How I'll Kill You. And last but not least, The Inn at Tansy Falls. Thank you so much for joining me. If this content was something that you enjoyed, please do leave a comment below. If you have any thoughts on the books we discussed today, please leave comments below. If you have any recommendations of books that you want me to read, anything you want me to talk about on this channel, let me know. If any of these books sound interesting to you, where you think you might pick it up and read it, definitely let me know. But otherwise, I am very, very, very proud of how many books I got through this month, because I really didn't think I would. The beginning of the month was busy for me this month, so I didn't think I would read as much as I thought I was going to, but I really made up for it for the last month. Middle of the Night, for example, I finished in a single day. Hook, Line, and Sinker, I finished in one day. The Inn at Tansy Falls, I finished in one day. So we did some good reading and a lot of physical copies read this month as well, which is very exciting. That being said, thank you so much for joining me. If bookish content is up your alley and this is what you like and enjoy, then definitely consider joining me again. I put out videos every Wednesday and Sunday, and I would love to have you back in our bookish community. Thank you so much for joining me. Definitely consider hitting that notification and subscribe bell, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Bye.